And hello, Internet. And on that note, as I cringe from the perfectly timed, embarrassing joke that everybody missed, my name is Evan Jones. I'm the community manager for Pursuitery.com. Join us online at Pursuitery for a full listing of geek outs, such as this one, challenges, and more. We'd be very happy to have you. If you have any questions, please feel free to tweet to them at us via @Pursuitery. You can see how that's spelled by pointing to the wrong direction. Okay. I've never figured out the lower third, and I'll get there at some point.
There.
Pause for comedic effect. This video will also be posted to our YouTube channel if you can't stay for the entire live broadcast, but you should because it's going to be a great one.
Please stay.
In the history of introductions, I was hoping to have the quickest one ever, but already I've been sidelined by the genius that is Georgia Van Cuylenburg.
Woohoo! You got it right!
Yeah!
Studio audience goes wild.
In the pre-intro, I think I blew the pronunciation of your name at least 2 or 3 times, so there we are, and I've learned something already. How are
Whatever,
you?
Evan.
Ivan, please. Ivan Jonas.
Thought I recognized you from somewhere.
How are you? Long time no see.
Such a long time no see, and I am good, thank you.
Various degrees of cybernetic tag over the past almost 2 years, but
yes, thank you,
lovely to see
Twitter.
you again.
You're amazing the way you work.
It's the worldwide way to sort of have conversations with people, but not really.
Yeah, in 130 characters or less.
Which is all I need to convey the fact that I look like every character who starred in a science fiction film in the 1950s.
So true.
I want to get to it before you got to it. I know you were cooking up material.
I was
know
like,
you were working
what
on
can
it.
I say about his amazing jawline and sunglasses and short cropped hair? I mean sunglasses.
So I noticed you played Half-Life.
I would have just gone super mainstream with Clark Kent, and everyone would be like, typical.
Yeah, that was. I keep waiting for somebody to hit me with Half-Life, but typically I hear Clark Kent.
You did it for yourself.
Yeah, why not? I want to do it. So, seeing as you have perhaps the most complex bio of any guest we've ever had on Pursuitery.com, I want to point everybody out to the location of your website, which is going to be girlfromdownunder.com.
That is correct.
All right, I correctly pronounced that.
Yes, you can also go to georgiavancuylenburg.com and it takes you there. So whichever one you want to spell best.
Yeah, I wonder. Did you buy all the assorted names for like the other spellings?
All the spellings that I've ever got: Van Cyclingberg, Van Beck, Hugenbeck, and Bergenberg. People just do that. When I used to do stand-up, they'd always be like, "Coming to the stage is Georgia Van Hugenberg and Bergenberg and whatever."
Coming to the stage next is Good Luck.
This girl.
Yeah, actually hearing the feedback from yelling at each other. So I wanted to solicit a quick self-introduction because there's so much going on and you have a lot of adjectives next to your name. I know we're going to go with a writer, actor, developer, editor, producer, philanthropist, anthropologist, alchemist of some kind, possibly neurochemist.
Close. Sort of. The interesting thing is the one that I actually consider myself the most to be you didn't actually mention. But I've read ahead, so I won't answer that question just yet. So who am I? I'm half American, half Australian. And I am currently, I guess, most importantly working more as the executive director of Arts Bridging the Gap, which is something we're going to talk about later. But you might recognize me from such things as Final Fantasy 13, where I'm Vanille. I'm also in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And
one of my friends is married to you.
I know, which is kind of... Well, actually, I'm actually married to a number of men. On that game, I am an equal opportunity employer.
It's a rough
It is. It's pretty tough. I have also had the pleasure of being Angelina Ballerina, the happiest mouse ballerina ever. And Jake is the pig who loves to dance. I like to dance. Do you like to dance? And an elephant who liked to swing on his trunk through the jungle, as most elephants do. So those are some of the fun voiceover jobs I've had. Also done quite a bit of in front of the camera acting, mainly in kids shows. Wrote a little bit in the kids show department and movie department. Also have the fun of being a documentary filmmaker. Made my own movie called Baby Let Your Hair Hang Down about my autoimmune condition. I'm sort of the public face and advocate of alopecia around the world, which is my autoimmune condition. We can talk about that later. Save the mystery. And I do host my own show, or a show that I host with Amy Gibson, retired soap actress and wig maker, every Monday night from Sunset Gower Studios around the corner, called Don't Wig Out with Amy and Georgia. And so I do that, as well as working very predominantly in the lower income areas of Los Angeles with kids, helping with all sorts of areas of their life. And I travel around talking about loving yourself and believing in your magic. Why was I vinyl? Who knows? And along those lines as well, I'm also Stop the Phones, everybody, coach of the YMCA 8 to 9-year-old boys basketball team in Culver City. Yes. I am an ocean swimmer and a marathon runner. And besides that, I also write for the Hollywood Journal and a couple of other publications. And I think that covers it all at the moment. Thank you very much. Thanks. Oh, I'm also an eternal studier. I'm like doing like 4 courses online right now.
Troy McClure, everybody.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping some of you guys, somebody who watches that on the feed is going to remember.
Yes.
Troy McClure, who you might remember from such video interviews as
this guy. This guy's.
All right, so you have a lot going on, obviously. Do you describe yourself primarily as an actress?
Good question, Evan. Let me answer that. I do not, actually. When people say, what do you do? I think especially living in Los Angeles, for some reason, I have to confess I do have a funny thing about saying I'm an actress first. I think a lot of the time there's a stigma that comes with it, so I tend to not say it, but truthfully, I'm not first and foremost an actress, and haven't been for a while. When I first moved here, that was my focus. I am very much now what I would say is a social entrepreneur, and a public advocate for children and those that are underprivileged or disadvantaged. So a lot of the work, like the predominant amount of my time, I spend now working on those things with my new company, with other companies that I help support, with public speaking. But I do definitely work as an actress still. And so I sort of always say that. I'm like, I'm a social entrepreneur, and I do all this, but I'm also an actress and a voiceover actor, and I was a stand-up comedian, and I do a lot of writing and producing. In the end, I work in the entertainment business is sort of the way I go about it.
That's a good catch-all. You meet so many people, and obviously, I think a big part of that, it's sort of catch as catch can.
Yeah.
You know, if you're saying, no, I'm not going to do any voice acting work, next thing you know, you don't have a paycheck.
Yeah.
And you know, no, I'm not going to do any live entertainment stuff. I'm not going to go work in a play. You're missing out on a paycheck.
Absolutely.
And the real politic of it is, you know, working actor equals buying food.
Yes, it is the thing. You have to work to feed yourself, unless you're a trust fund baby, which I'm not. Oh, I forgot something. I'm also a children's entertainer, and that brought up a thing of that's another thing that I say a lot, and I actually gave notice to the companies I work for on the weekend that I'm done after 12 years of doing children's entertainment. And
so soon to be former.
Yeah, former children's entertainer. Everyone in my life's like, now's the time for the movie with all the stories I have. But it is that thing as well of like that helps pay the bills. And if you do say like, I am working predominantly on being a social entrepreneur and working for social change, but I would hate to say I'm done with acting because I love doing it. And yes, it does help put a roof over my head. So I never stop. I love it. I'm acting right now. Not really.
So with that said, obviously you find yourself in a position where you're doing one thing at one moment and then another at the next.
What he's trying to say is I have many multiple personalities and I'm a very confused individual.
No.
That is correct.
No. Despite the fact that I've sounded cynical every second of my existence since about 13, I actually am somewhat genuine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I really have taken the term multitasking and given it steroids in a major way. And sometimes it's a great thing, and sometimes, honestly, it's not. They do say that to be a master is something you really have to dedicate your life to it.
10,000 hours.
Yeah, yes. And my problem is that I love many different things. So I really have, when you say what do you do, my dedication is to being a social entrepreneur, and I put everything under that bracket. Being an entertainer and being a performer and being in a million different places, hosting a show, doing all that, all forwards my mission of social change. I wouldn't do a show if it didn't forward that. I wouldn't play a character if I couldn't utilize that in a way to speak on a platform. You know, I'm not trying to be an evangelist on an issue, but I really think that celebrities or people of note, and I'm not putting myself in that category, but someone that has people that follow them definitely needs to use that or get off that soapbox.
Get off or get on?
Well, you get off it if you don't have something good to say.
True.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was American speaking rhythm you. I was completely like,
yeah.
How dare somebody have a different way of talking?
I know. So sorry about that.
No, I totally get it. It's me looking foolish, not you. But so with that said, how do you fit everything in?
I'm looking into sleeping sometime in the next decade. I definitely am tracking my sleep because I realize that sleep is important. That's one of those bands where it tells you how much you've slept and stuff.
Okay, so that's wearable technology.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, we do. Another thing I'm going to pursue, just so I can cross-pollinate here and everybody knows, we do geek outs about electronics and home electronics. I actually have my little Raspberry Pi media server, which you can't see because of the nature of the camera angle, but I have a credit card-sized media server, and we teach people how to build those kind of things. But
oh, cool!
It's really cool to do that. So you're looking into sleep at some point in the future.
Yeah, truthfully, it is. I'm a mad time manager in like a good sense of the word, in that I love everything I do so much, and I'm so dedicated, and I'm so excited about the end result that I just pack in on my day everything I possibly can. People in my life think I'm insane. Significant others have an issue with it. It's just like I get up in the morning and I work out every day, and then I work until someone feeds me something, and then I work again, and I drive to here and drive over to there and get this thing done, and I'm save all my phone calls for while I'm driving, and then I have this meeting, and then I have to go to that thing, and I usually shut off at about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you know, if I can, just because there's so much to do in life, and there's so little time. If you add all the stuff that could be done, once you learn what one person is capable of doing, that it's just like, I got to do this. So, yeah, I'm a little driven.
You know, something I wonder if it's been so long since I've been out of like high school and whatnot. I wonder if they're teaching time management, and I'm serious about that. They're teaching time management to school children now, because we've been working with. We have a summer youth ambassador, and tomorrow's her last day. Tune in tomorrow at the town hall to see me tell my intern goodbye.
Aww.
for that party, but one of the things is we worked at LAPL with kids in programming, and we're seeing like what their school schedules were like, and I was like, yeah, I'm taking 7 classes, they're all AP, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm preparing for the SATs, and they're breaking it all down for me. I'm like, I had 3 jobs for almost the whole of the past 8 years. I still don't know how you do it. I guess it's something where it's just so focused, and there you go. But at the same time, you're balancing all the stuff you're doing with the creative thing, and I think what you're kind of implying, and this is how I'm going to read it, is that you have to be really disciplined to be creative.
Yes.
As opposed to just like sitting around waiting for something to fall out of the clouds.
And I think that is the difference between, like, there are actors and people in the creative world that are very comfortable waking up in the morning and seeing what comes to them. Like, who's going to offer me a thing, or who's going to ask me to go to this audition, and if not, I'll sit around and wait for that, and that's their mentality, and that's the way they work. They're more the would-be employed, would work for personalities. I'm the creative person. So for me, like, I'm my boss, and I've always been my own boss. So if I don't do the work, I'm the only one that gets mad at me. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it's like a thing of I have to be my boss. Like, I have to audit myself, and I have to set myself tasks, and I have to set time limits. And I sort of always put it down as like there's there was a big shift for me where I was like, I'm not okay waking up in the morning and being like, who's gonna tell me what to do today? Who's gonna make that difference for me? I was like, I want to make a difference. I want to do something. And if I don't do it, I go to bed with me going, you didn't do your work today. So my conscience won't allow me to have that sort of day, which also makes me an extremely boring person to be around a lot of the time because people are like, let's watch a movie. I'm like, I haven't done my tasks. So, yeah.
Do you say it like that, too?
Yeah, I shake my head and go, I haven't done my tasks. Like a sort of black suburban woman. But I have not done my tasks. Sorry.
Every time you're around, you will try. I will note that you do take a stab at the southern accent, and every time it's weirder and weirder.
I have not done my tasks. What is you?
How come I can't move further out this frame?
Because my voice is too big. What?
This is my job, everybody. It's like, just today I was on Twitter saying, I gotta research all these questions about Star Wars and video games and acting.
And thank you, God.
I paid some dues.
Oh, believe me, there was a moment where I had to say a line, not that we're into Star Wars yet, but when I had to say the line, if you think this is bad, you should see Hoth in the Winter, I just looked up to the man upstairs. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you so much for this job. I get to talk about Hoth and get paid for it.
That's what's known as foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Teasing out there. So
that was a call forward.
Is call forward an actual technical term? Because I know callback is...
Yeah, no, it was a joke. And then I'm going to tell the story later and be like, ha, see, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, well, that's known as a tag.
Oh, yeah, I know. Don't worry.
Comedians, we're going to have to punch each other in the arm later on. So, taking a step back to stay a step forward, how did you get into acting?
Acting is pretty much something I've done all my life. The earliest memory I have of the acting department was playing Barbie Rockspin in my front room at the age of 2.5, 3, with my brother as the lighting director and ticket taker and my parents the audience. And I would wrap myself in a curtain and he would have to yell out, I see an arm! I see a leg! And I'd stick an arm out. And then he'd be like, it's Barbie Rockspin! And I'd come out and dance. So, always been a very shy child. Took a while for my parents to get it out of me, but I basically knew from the beginning. I was in every play, lead in the musicals in 3rd grade, bragging, and all of that sort of stuff, all the way up, always wanted to do it. Got my first professional sort of scholarship position when I was in 10th grade to work with St. Martin's Youth Theatre. Looked around at these 25-year-old actors that were so excited about the idea of living, as I called it, a cardboard box style of actor lifestyle. They were like, we're going to starve for our art. And I was like, what if you could make a lot of money for your art? That would also be awesome. So I was a very different style. I was like, I want to entertain children and make people laugh. And they're like, we want to talk about death and destruction and the inner soul's being. And I was like, you guys are weird. I'm going to go and work in children's TV. So from a very early age, I'd always wanted to do it. I decided when I was 12 I was moving here to work in entertainment, and moved 7 years later, pretty much, to the knock. So I just really liked entertaining. I was in high school. I wasn't a silly kid. I actually did very well, and I love studying. I'm a super geek. Something a lot of people don't know me. I just finished 3 online courses. I'm starting another one in a week from Stanford. I absolutely love learning and worked really, really hard at school, but I knew I didn't need any score to get what I wanted. I just wanted to work as an actor. Got a PR degree in the meanwhile, but was still working as an actor while I did it. So there was never a question. Entertaining for me was what kept me going and my buzz. I was only to that pretty recently, last few years, that I realized that I also had that same buzz for working with underprivileged children. So, yeah.
It's something I've noticed from a lot of people. I mean, working where I work, we deal with a lot of. It's really cool because we're dealing on with pursuers for everybody, and so it's been really fun to go talk to people who are in video games. Hello everybody at PAX, I miss you. And
hi PAX people.
PAX is happening.
PAX-mans.
Yeah. Pax Women's as well. A whole
Pax
bunch
Women's.
Actually, very good recent guests are there, and one of our support tech team is there.
Oh, cool.
And so his whole mission, as far as I'm concerned, is like go say hi to them for us.
Nice.
But it's something where you meet people who, like in education, are super, super driven by it, and it's really funny because education, like anything else, is such amount of people do really well, but it's a fairly small amount of people, just like I'd say in acting. But then everybody else is so into it or so enthused by it that they're just going to go until they can't.
Yeah.
I have met a lot of people like that who remind me almost that same drive that a lot of my friends who are in, let's say, acting or entertainment have. And it's really, really intriguing to see like that people hit that nerve, and like I'm messing with this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a saying that I heard in a movie that, for whatever your opinion about the movie is, then it's very not many people are like, it was okay. They either hate it or love it. But in Cloud Atlas, Tom Hanks's character says at one point, you have to do what you can't not do. And that was one part of the movie I remember, where I was like, that basically typifies my life, and I know there's a lot of people out there, and it is that thing of like, you just go and go and go because you have to do what you can't not do. I couldn't not do it. And they'll defend that with their life. Like, if you question that thing that they have to do, yeah, you don't want to get in the way. Kind of like a dog on his bone.
So, inspired by Cloud, huh? Foreshadowing.
Yes.
Final. Well, 7. 6 games early. So let's move into some more of these questions.
Sure.
As I look to check my time.
Told you I talk.
And I'm not being rude. This is where I'm checking the Twitter feed from tonight because my trusted assistant.
He's like totally texting while I'm talking to him. Hello, I'm here too.
How great would it be if I was just sitting here texting people while doing my work?
You're like, but first, let's take a selfie.
And I'd just be like, interactive art, everybody. That's the nature of the internet in 2014. So I actually do have tweets.
Yes.
I need to check.
You mean there's people out there? Where are you?
And again, if anybody has questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will get to them by the end of the hour. But the race is on to ask about acting. So, what do you feel are the main differences between what people commonly consider acting and what you've done with some of your voice acting work?
I mean, I think it's more the public perception as opposed to the reality. People consider acting, when you say I'm an actor, people assume they're going to see you, in general. Just that's, I think, a common perception. Like, oh, you're in a TV show or you're in a film. They don't necessarily equate voice work. But it's acting. It's voice acting. It's just a different form. It's kind of like, we're still coming to understanding oh my God, I'm totally blanking. I can't even believe I'm totally blanking on the form of work motion capture, thank you, that I've also done, a motion capture artist.
Andy Serkis and the like?
Yes. People don't necessarily assume that's acting, but it is. Your body is being used.
There's a longer tradition of that than there is film and television acting. A far longer tradition of that.
So this is the sort of stuff, and voice acting, if you think about radio plays were on long before visual acting was on TV, obviously, because there was no TV at that time. So I think it's just more public perception. But as far as the question goes, what do I perceive the difference being? In the actual physical doing of it, I really think that, I don't want to say harder, it's challenging to be a voiceover actor compared to a live actor. I find it more challenging. You can say a lot with your face or your body that completely goes out of the window.
90% of communication is body language.
Absolutely. And so when you're required to put all of that in your voice, that's sort of when I work with people that when they're just starting, I'm like, you need to be able to communicate everything that you would with your hands, as I'm such a hand talker. If you would take all of that and your eyes and the look that you would give, and you need to be able to do that still and put it in your voice so that when the animator has your voice, it makes sense. Because if you have a flat voice, it's just like, hi, Evan, it's nice to meet you. How do they, translate that to, hi, Evan, it's nice to meet you? It's just like, that's going to sound weird. Hi, Evan, it's nice to meet you.
Evan, flat voice?
Yeah, exactly.
Who'd have thought?
What the? So it really is a challenge, but in the same way, to make it real and believable, and in the same way that there's challenges with TV and film that you can't, it has to be natural, and this is where I think I suffer a bit from doing a lot of children's theater and a lot of voiceover acting. And sometimes when I do get in front of the camera, the first note from the director is just bring it back a little.
Yeah.
Just bring it back a little, because I'm like, what the?
Stop playing. Is it stop playing to the back of the room?
Yeah,
steal a line from stage acting.
Totally. I remember perfect example. I was on an episode of Weeds, and I'm standing next to Kevin Nealon, which, by the way, I don't know how they got us both in the shot. It was like a long shot because he's like 6'1", and I'm 5'2". And I'm just meant to, like, the other girl in the scene is meant to look at me like, what do you think? And I go. And that was all I thought I was doing a pretty, playing it easy, like, and the director had to be like, bring it back, keep bringing it back. And I was like, what am I meant to do? Just go. I'm like, this is a boring shot, but essentially I'm always a little too big. So that, in every way. So that is the truth of it, that there is, as far as public perception goes, there's a lot of difference, but I really think it's acting. It is acting. It's just like anything. If you're in Thumb Wars, you're a thumb actor. If you're a voice Star Wars, The Old Republic, you're a voiceover actor. You got to know your craft.
So, would you say deprived is a good word when you talk about this things? I always think to myself, like, if I had to go in and just speak, because my voice is somewhat flat and reserved. I've got that NPR voice that I've been working on for a while.
Certainly do, because I listen to NPR. Did I mention I'm a nerd?
Thanks for joining us on Pursuitery.com. Please feel free to check us out. Pursuitery.com for a full list of upcoming geek outs. I'm going to talk about Japanese animation endlessly and act like people care about it. Besides
and I'm going to play some really cute music underneath.
It's funny because NPR is featuring bands now, like the T-shirt of the band that I'm wearing, and you listen to it, it's like.
Oh, seriously?
And it's NPR.
And then they come and go, well, that was nice.
All right, coming up next. I do love NPR voice. I have friends who work for KCRW. Hi, KCRW.
Hi, KCRW. I'm listening to you. You're in my car. You're in my preset. I like you.
But I was gonna say, do you feel that when you go in for certain roles, that you don't have the same communicative ability because you're not, talking with your hands, or are you trying to channel that energy, so to speak, in another way?
Yeah, I think you channel it. Honestly, I love voice-over acting auditions because it's almost like you have, as opposed to being deprived, you're like given a chance to be reprived in a way, or reprieved, in there, because you're in a booth and you can go nuts because they're not going to see what you have to do to make the sound. And we do go nuts. I actually had someone say to me yesterday, I'd love to see what people look like. I'd just love to watch people in a booth, and when you hear things on TV, what they actually were doing. Because you really are, like, if I'm doing a role that's I don't even know, but like something really ridiculous, and I'm like, that is just silly. And why would you think that is going to be okay? And you're like going, nothing, but they don't catch any of that. They're just like this little part. But you have to for it to sound right. So in a way, you get more artistic license to do whatever the F you want because you're hidden from everybody. So I love it. And you can wear your pajamas. Do you
do work from home? Because I know a lot of voice people have really good home studios.
Yeah, I don't do work from home. I do auditions from home. I've never really got to that point where I wanted to do like feed with directors or anything. I really like being in the room. My favorite thing is having directors there with me.
But you can do the auditioning.
Yeah, I literally did an audition at about 3:30 this afternoon and another one last night from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've found to be fairly common. There's a couple places. It's so interesting to me. Like, I moved to LA to go to school, and then I ended up working with some of the people who wrote some of the books I read at school. Hi, everybody. We call them bosses.
Hi, bosses. I don't know what it's like to have one of you. I'm my boss. Did I mention? That's me telling me off.
No. But one thing that happened is that I've been in all these places where we have met people from various fields, and like we'll talk to a lot of people from. There's a lot of crossover. It's a really cool time. You've got people who are stage actors who go into video game direction because they've been working with actors for long, so they know how to get a better response from people who are in scenes with them. So eventually, like, can we have them direct the voices in our video games? They're doing a really good job there. Or they seem to know how things are going with like production stuff. Can we have them produce the voice actors that we're bringing to like, dub this cartoon or things like that? And you keep seeing people jump from one pool to another. And it's really, really interesting to see that happen because it used to be, well, I want to do this. And so, because I want to do this, this is all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I keep seeing this polymathic approach.
Yeah.
Fancy word for a bunch, doing a bunch of things.
Polymathic. I'm a polymathematician.
Polymathematician.
I do lots of things. You are right, and it's sort of a negative and a positive. Mm-hmm. It's got to a point, and bless everyone out there with their cotton socks, everybody's decided that they can do voiceover acting, or they can do commercial acting, or they can, and they sort of do everything, which doesn't mean they're actually doing it. They have a demo, they have a headshot, they have a thing, they have a agent. I really think it is not a bad idea to know what your strengths are. Like, I'm not actively all the time pounding the pavement for acting work in front of the camera because I know it's not my strength. I'm not bad at it. I'm a good host, so I focus on hosting stuff because I'm just so charismatic, as you can tell. But the point is, voiceover acting and hosting is what I focus on, but everybody does think that they can do it all, and you sort of hear of it. But there are some people, don't get me wrong, that are very good at crossing over all the sections. But I really think now with the internet, with the ability to do things remotely or get things done cheaply for yourself, everybody gives it a go. And I do think it sort of dilutes the process, and it makes it really hard because a director or a producer goes to an agency and says, I want to, we're casting this job, and the producer gets inundated with 1,000 reads from girls that maybe don't even really have any experience, and then you're in there amongst 1,000, and they just sit there and listen. If they're done after 100, they're bored. Somebody that has incredible credits and a really great read could be sitting at number 900 and never gets heard. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how it's affecting the process.
It's such an interesting thing, and there's so much of it going on with it. I noticed we're at the 7:30 mark, and I want to make time for everybody's questions. I do see people putting questions in the chat. Thanks.
We can see
that. Let me go into some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about earlier.
The stuff that everybody really wants to hear about.
Yeah. So, in Final Fantasy 13,
yes,
you played
Vanille.
Okay, so we just talked about auditioning, how did that come about?
Vanille came about going into my agency. I'd been doing a read for redubbing Kate Blanchett in something, and I just was walking out, and he'd got it come through on the fax machine. What? That was a thing, kids. Back in the day, it was like a box, and things had come out of it, paper, they called it. So he'd got this come through, and he was like, you have to read this. And I read it, and it was like, looking for someone with a slight Australian accent. Pay good attention to that, all you naysayers out there. A slight Australian accent, not an Australian accent. Sorry, jaded slightly. I don't comment back to all these people, but now's my chance. So a slight Australian accent, sounds like she's been somewhere else for a while. Peppy, upbeat, believes in sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, early 20s. And he and I looked at each other and were like, that's a joke, right? Did you write this for me? So I basically went in and read it and did my thing and left. And the thing that part of the story that I actually didn't know until recently, which is pretty cool, is as I mentioned to you, when an agent usually submits, they'll submit like 10 girls or whatever for a job, and then the producer and director listen to it, and then they've got 100 there or whatever, and they go through. So Ilko, my wonderful agent, who's been my agent for nearly 9 years now, he sent off mine and no one else's at the agency. Mm-hmm. He only had me read for it. And Joe, the producer, called him back and said, Ilko, thanks for that one read. We didn't get all the others. And he goes, no, I didn't send you any others. And he goes, well, why not? I need all your girls. And he goes, you're going to book her. And he goes, well, that's extremely confident of you, but I'd really like to hear your other girls. And he goes, I'm not sending you any other girls. You're going to book her. And he said it was almost like a moment where...
Did he Jedi mind trick?
He was like, this is the girl you're looking for. This is the girl you're looking for. So basically Joe called back like 2 weeks later and he goes, so we were about to like drop you forever as an agent because we thought it was so arrogant of you, but we'd like to book Georgia. So it was a very great moment when I actually walked in there. Both he, Joe, and Jack, the two producing partners who are amazing and wonderful guys, were like, we're so bummed that you're not coming in here with rainbows and puppets and magicians, because at that point I had a kids show where I basically taught kids to believe in magic and eat their veggies. So they couldn't believe that someone actually existed that fitted the description of Vanille in real life. So I guess sometimes you're born to play certain characters.
Did you show up with doves instead?
I didn't want to be like... No, I didn't. But yes, it was a very easy character for me to play in many ways. Not just the lighthearted stuff, but the darker stuff towards the end. It is eerie how much her life and my life... I didn't necessarily bring down a nation, but I certainly had my secrets.
So, did you have any familiarity with the series beforehand?
I knew of Final Fantasy. I had a number of friends that were very into it, so I didn't have the college life that most people are used to. As I mentioned, nerd, and I studied and stuff. So I didn't really play video games that way, but I had a lot of friends that did, and I knew Final Fantasy through that. But I hadn't really been into the gaming world when it happened, so I sort of... He said, so it looks like you've booked this thing, and it seems to like be a pretty big deal. You might want to look into it. And I looked into it, and on the first day they gave me the whole rundown, and on the game, the second day they had one of the producers from Japan in, and he gave me the whole rundown on the whole like franchise sort of setup. He showed me a big billboard downtown, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love it. Like, I always thought that was like a mock-up, and he goes, no, that's actually downtown right now. I was like, no way. That's me. And then, unfortunately, Michael Jackson passed away like 2 weeks later. But for me, worked out kind of well because our billboard was in every single shot of the exterior of the Staples Center during his funeral for simulcast.
That's one of those weird things where it's like...
You're like, this is a horribly wonderful occasion.
Oof.
Yeah. Don't hate me, Michael Jackson fans. It was a beautiful concert.
You recorded for a while, though, right?
Yeah, that Final Fantasy 13-1 was about 6 months, and we would record once or twice every week for pretty much that entire time. It was I had the most lines in Final Fantasy 13 by quite a bit, so I was definitely the most involved. Final Fantasy 13-2 hardly did anything, and then back to Final Fantasy 13-3, I was quite involved in that. That was honestly the most challenging of the games to do, even in the short period that we did it. The way they'd set it up was a lot more challenging for the actors, technically, because we didn't have visual, we didn't have sound comparisons. We often were just fitting it to a time, like literally 3 seconds shorter, 2 seconds shorter, quarter second shorter, and you didn't really, because it was new directors. They were great. Jamie and Chris are great directors, but it's kind of like, you know, having a family and then your mom and dad change at the end, and you're like, but I liked my old mom and dad. So it was a little bit confusing.
So I guess some of that kind of intensity, like, you form almost a familial bond.
Totally.
And you understand, oh, somebody else would see how a conversation went, and you'd be like, oh, that person wasn't mad at me. That may have looked like they were mad at me. That's just how we communicate. Then you have somebody new, and you're like, is this person mad at me? I don't know them well enough to tell.
I have to say, it's a good thing it happened this way, not the other way, because having Jack and Joe come in at the last minute, not knowing them, I would have thought they hated me. They're the most wonderful people, and they've got such a sharp, sarcastic San Francisco way of being that it took me a couple of months to be like, do they hate my guts or do they love me?
So, it's a next question I had was actually really good. When you've got something like that and there's everything going on in the story, I mean, there's a difference between movie scripts and video game scripts. Do you get everything or just the stuff that's relevant to your character?
No, that's what is challenging about. I think that's something that does make game acting quite different from, say, film acting. You book a film and you have the script at home, right? Mm. You'd learn it, you understand, you research the context. We had 15 books, and we weren't allowed to take them with us. So we got them on the day, and you had to, if you didn't understand the context, you had to ask. And there was no sense of, like, what's coming. And quite often you'd read something, and because you didn't have the context, you hadn't watched it through, I'd be like, God, I hope that this makes sense for the story. Because I understand my story, but what is everyone else's story? And we never read with each other. We never really, and Jack and Joe didn't completely, like there were times where they'd be like, we don't actually know the answer to that question. And we had a guy, our Japanese producer, that would be able to give context to everything, thank goodness. But there was definitely some challenging times where we were like, we don't, I'd be like, I'm doing my best here. There's no doubt about it, and I'm doing it true to what I believe. But then you'd watch it later and be like, oh, I wish I'd known that was where it came in the story.
It seems like something where I wonder if when you came in on the first day, was what you're doing on the first day that much different from like the final project? Because so much has to change.
I mean,
bring it in, bring it down.
Yeah, well, no, bring it up. Vanille, big time. She was not a bring it down character, that is for sure. I think you'll agree with me out there. So she was a character that it took a while for me to understand what they wanted for her, because I think what they were really going for, what was conveyed to me, was they were going for that very typical Japanese anime character. And so things like the sound effects, exactly. You see, that's what I was doing when I first got in there.
I have a house full of cells. You can look back and see like 2 right there. I'm not knocking Japanese animation.
Good. So basically, like, they were even like, so there's a sound we're going to need you to do, and I had to learn it, and that sound. So
stick around, everybody. Later on, we're going to have an isolated version of that for your ringtone.
Oh, I can do scene 7. I've actually never done scene 7, the digging scene where they're digging Sarah out of the ice, on air.
No spoilers.
I have been asked spoiler alert.
Oh.
A little late. I should hope all of you have played Final Fantasy 1 by now, if you're watching this, actually. Let's be honest. If you're not, welcome to the party. Catch up to scene 7. So there's like 11 sounds in a row, and I get asked so often to record that for people. So.
Please.
Really?
How long is it? It's only 15 minutes, is it?
No, it's not 15 minutes. Are we doing it right now? You did say your demographic was. You may look. I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
Look at this face.
Oh, how can you say no to that face? Okay. So 11 sounds. Digging. Imagine Vanille digging Sarah out of the ice, and it was covered with everybody else's grunting sounds, which I don't think made it any better. But here goes.
And once deprived of context, I just want like the lines and getting all that right, like just making that into something that makes sense, because you're digging the ice, and you sit there and go, how do I make a sound that I'm digging the ice? And wouldn't breathing be really hard because I'm digging in ice?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many moments of like, so you're running, and I'd be like, all right. So to run, you'd go, and they're like, no, we need you to like run like Vanille. I'd be like, because that's how Vanille runs.
Apparently, Vanille runs in a bubble factory.
She does. I think Vanille lives in a bubble factory with helium.
But it's you're sitting there and going, okay, so what's the context? And they give it to you, and
yeah, I mean, truthfully, well, when we get into Star Wars, that's even funnier. The context and lack of context for Star Wars when that happens. But yeah, it would be kind of like, so you and Saz are in this area, you're not, and I'd be like, it kind of feels like I'm flirting with Saz. Is that inappropriate right now? Because he's like an old guy and I'm a young girl. And they'd be like, you're not flirting, but it does sound like it, so try and keep that separate. I'm like, right, okay, good. And then later when it's like, this is a dream sequence, it's not really happening, but later we're going to see the real thing. Like, okay, cool. You know, so there's a lot of context given in the moment, but there's no like grand context. Like, you know. You're
sad about your Wookiee dying.
Yes, I wish I'd had a Wookiee. I didn't get no Wookiee.
I'd like to note that part of my research for today was found on Wikipedia, which
yes.
is probably the highlight of my day.
I have that as a bookmark.
That and trying to explain the noise you just made and the fact that it's completely okay. Let's not dwell on it, please. Moving on. So, one last question about
yes.
Final Fantasy, because I do want to give time for people on the floor. I do want to talk about Arch Bridging the Gap as well as Star Wars. So I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit. I've had the distinct honor of seeing people dressed as Vanille meet you.
Yes.
Please describe what that was like for you.
It's kind of awesome. I'm not going to lie. It's just that thing of, like, you cared enough about this character to make a costume of her. It's really cool, and her costume is super awesome. I mean, kudos to the girls that wear it, too, because it ain't exactly covering or modest at all. But it is funny, because there's just so many ridiculous moments, like when Fang is reunited and she lifts up the skirt. Yeah, you know, all that. Sorry, I can't say
watching.
that. Sorry, I just said lift up the skirt.
Nothing.
No, can't say. Okay. That's where she's got her. Whatever.
Just don't have spoilers. It's more so spoilers than anything else.
Yeah, okay. She doesn't lift up the skirt. There's nothing under there.
So, see, now I still have the incentive to play Final Fantasy.
That's what I'm trying to do here, folks.
Shift
Not
some
that I get royalties.
Shift some units, as we call it.
Yes.
But just the content of people were like, wow, you cared enough about this to actually make the costume.
Yeah, and it's always cool. Like, it's a cool moment. We get photos. There's hugs. People send me cosplays all the time.
That was you. have a few of those. That was me moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that voice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, and because a lot of them don't know what I look like, it was that funny moment where I'd be like, oh, I really love your costume. And they'd be like, thanks, I'm Vanille from Final Fantasy. And I'd be like, thanks, I am too. And they'd be like,
has that quote happened?
Oh, totally.
Oh, my goodness.
That was my general way of getting in, you know? And they'd be like, what? No, you do cosplay like her? And I went, no, I am
credits booklet.
Her.
Boom.
I'm the voice. And they go, oh my god. And you're just like, it's cool. I just want to say I like your costume. And then they'll find you like later. Can I have a photo? I'm like, absolutely. You're adorable. So.
And if they're dressed as you get to say, absolutely, I'm adorable.
Yeah, I am totally adorable. And look at my tummy.
And speaking of devoted fans, smooth segues and Wookiees. Star Wars. You played Reyna Temple or Reyna Temple?
Reyna Temple. Ensign Reyna Temple.
And Ensign. Same question. How did that come about?
That one came about with an audition a year before I got the job. So I did the audition, and when my agent knows I am a huge Star Wars fan, so when the new Star Wars game was coming out, he like sent me out for everything. And I remember doing Ensign Reyna Temple way back, and it was like basically January, and I was just like, gosh, I would so love to get this voice. And then I did a lot of like the Huttese characters and all that sort of, all these different, like, I remember being at a baseball game once practicing. I was like, I'm super involved in baseball. And
You're a Dodger.
I'm not actually.
I was at the baseball game practicing.
Yeah, I'm like in the dugout reading out Huttese. But I was actually back waiting for the players to come out and doing my Huttese impressions for the head of security. It was pretty ridiculous. But nonetheless, I waited and I was like, oh, well, I missed that. And then I was just about to leave to Australia for Christmas, and I get a call like 2 days before from my agent going, can you record Star Wars next week? And I was like, what? I'm leaving, Ilko, don't tell me this. So they were able to reschedule it for when I got back. But it was purely an audition, the same thing. And honestly, my favorite job ever for me, because I've been a huge Star Wars geek. I mean, need I say, I don't know if you guys can see that, but like that's my keyring, Oba. So yeah, I'm kind of.
And you actually have the sandpit creature in your purse.
Some people just call that the mess at the bottom of my purse, but it's also a sand monster.
Did you have a bunch of secretive restrictions for work on the project? Because you hear all this stuff that, I mean, very much like you mentioned about Final Fantasy, you couldn't take scripts home, or
yeah, no taking scripts home. Star Wars a little bit more under wraps even than Final Fantasy. We were given so little context that there was very little we could say anyway. Star Wars was very huge confidentiality agreement stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's Lucas, so everything is do not tell anyone.
Well, it was until fairly recently. I think the last GTA replaced it. It was the most expensive video game developed up to a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, especially the way they do it with the 3 options. It's a lot more expensive to make it because there are there's many very distinct paths, and because it's online as well, they have to keep updating it and monitoring it. It's not like you just send out a DVD.
So with something like that, what was your recording process like in terms of time?
It's not as much, and it has been ongoing as well because as they add more, we have to keep coming back, which is kind of nice, and I always love it when that happens. But it is a very difficult recording process. It's only a few, you only have like 4 hours every time, the same way with Final Fantasy. Hold for the plane.
They're finally coming for us.
It's happened, everyone. It's been nice
It's
knowing
Lucas.
you. It
Don't
is.
spill
He's
anything.
Like, don't say anything. I'm gonna drop this bomb on you.
I gotta see the next couple.
We'll put out a defense shield up. So basically, to typify what it was like to record Star Wars is a great. The second session I went in for, after I'd done the first one where I understood the character a little bit more, I understood that the characters can be married, I can marry you, all that sort of stuff. So I go in for the second round, and he gives me the script for the first scene, and my first question to him, Will, the director, I love Will Beckman, what a star, says, I say to him, okay, this is great, so is this, and I don't even have visual at this point, at least with the other one I had like scratch visual, and I say, is this where I'm like married to the player, or have I just met the player? And his response was, it could be both. I was like, oh, okay, let me find that balance.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a lot, because they were trying to, I guess, be smart about the way that they take time to record and everything, they don't always just make you read all 3.
That's such an interesting take on it. And I'm going to try and tell the story briefly, but it's something that I want to share. I tried telling the story at work, and one of my supervisors was like, "Oh, that wasn't really well told," and so I've always felt crushed. So I'm going to take a second shot at it. I have a friend in Japan who's a dear friend of mine, and when I go back to visit Japan, I will take the time out to see her. And when I came back this past time, she had gotten engaged, and I hadn't met her fiance yet. And they had me over. They made me a lovely meal. We talked, but it was a little bit withdrawn and a little bit strange. And just because I felt like I was invading some territory, and it's a very small house. So
you literally were sitting on them, so it was slightly awkward.
And actually, I think their table's far smaller than this not wooden desk that I've refurbished into my work table.
It's beautiful.
But yeah.
Like what you've done with it.
Indeed. But the next day, they were like, "Oh, just stay here. Don't go back to the hotel or anything. Just stay here. It's too far." I was like, "Great. Extra couple hours of sleep." So the next day, I woke up and they're like, "Yeah, well, let's get this breakfast done." And we had a nice breakfast. And they said, "Yeah, time to go on our raid." And so they pull up their laptops and they start playing the Star Wars games. And so we're talking, and I said, "Oh, I have a friend who played a role in that game." And they're like, and I remember the fiance goes, "Well, a lot of people played roles in this game." And I Googled it up on my phone, and I said, "Yeah, she played Raina Temple." Pauses, looks at me, and goes, "I'm married to her." And so I was like, really? And that's when I run to Twitter, and in that moment I ran to Twitter, and it's like, I just met somebody who's married to you.
And I'm like, say hi.
He's now engaged to my friend.
Yeah, I wrote, I give my blessing.
So the point of the story when I finished at the end was just like explain that, okay, so this person who's married to my friend in real life was married to my other friend's character in the video game world, and so I'm helping them get married in real life, but also I guess I'm having to officiate a cybernetic divorce.
I'll sign the papers, buddy.
And when I told this story at work, guess how well it went over? You could have heard that on the moon.
We thought it was hilarious, didn't we, interweb?
It was like my second day. It was like my second week at work, and I'm just looking there like, oh.
He thinks it's funny.
And as
I think it's
and
hilarious
as we
because I'm
since
involved in
and
the
as we
story.
since learned, I never have, never will. But
Oh.
that's my Star Wars and you and the story. I just couldn't believe that out of all the people I end up on the other side of the planet. I was like, I'm married to her. I'm like, well, you kind of get divorced because there's all this stuff
Yeah,
going on.
there's this thing called the law.
But you had mentioned you're a fan, so I'm wondering how much time you had to spend immersing yourself in that world.
For Star Wars?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just because you'd been to play for the question, I know you didn't have a lot of context to go on with.
Yeah,
voice
so for the Star Wars game, because it's set, I think I'm lucky in that I really do understand the Star Wars world because of my loving it. That this one was a lot easier, even if I didn't understand that the world that was 2,000 years earlier, and where there is no rebel versus dark side at this point. Of course, I still understood, and there was a context to it for me that I also understood the culture and what is Star Wars. So therefore, the way that things are performed per se, or the way it would be. So that was a little bit easier for me. What I did find funny though was later watching all the cutscenes on YouTube and realizing the arc of my character and how very different it was from the way I possibly had perceived it in my head. But that being said, now I know very well and truly who she is and how she fits in.
Okay, so time-wise, I just want to let everybody know Are you good for time? Can we take a few more minutes than scheduled? Because we're going to stop at 8.
I think so. Let me just check something over here.
And I want to talk about Arts Bridging the Gap, and I want to take everybody's
I can
questions.
talk about that. Oh my gosh, it is. You're right. It's 8 o'clock already. We can talk about Arts Bridging the Gap really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because we don't need to, people can look it up and read on the interweb.
Where can they look it up at?
artsbridgingthegap.org. Basically, I'll do a quick one and help you with it, maybe. So amongst all my work with voiceover work and stuff, I really started to notice the way that how incredible fans are and how they really take advice or take lead from people that are somewhat in the public eye. So we started really exploring that. I became a very big public advocate for believing in yourself and pursuing your best self and really doing whatever you want to do in life. And sort of my tagline was, you can do anything you want if you just believe in your magic. And with that, I was a hair model as well, and lost all of my hair and became a very big public advocate for alopecia, which is the condition that I have. So I started speaking a lot about what it's like to identify yourself one way and then lose that identity and have to build yourself up to be the best person you. It's kind of like, as opposed to being okay with it, really being the best person that you ever could be. Using that as a strength, not a weakness. And now I'm so proud to be bold and who I am and speak from that place. Actually, funny side story, if we can. Sorry, time. But the last time I went in to record Star Wars, I went in bald. And there was a whole new crew that didn't know me. Will knows I'm bald. Everybody that ever's worked with me knows I have alopecia. There was like a whole new crew. I felt actually they all, in my memory, they all look like the Good Wife cast. Like they were sitting in there like the Good Wife cast. And I walked in and they like showed me in and everybody's being really sweet and really nice. But there was this like pause and I came in and I started talking and I said, I'm going to take my hat off because the hat gets in the way. And I went, oh, by the way, I have alopecia. I'm not dying. And they all like, there was this overwhelming sigh of relief and laughter, and they're like, oh God, thank God, we all didn't know what to say. And one girl goes, all I was thinking is, shit, do we have to recast this girl? Sorry, I swore.
No, you did. No, you didn't.
No, I didn't at all.
I'm just doing Mace Windu.
Woo! Sorry about that. But basically, everyone in the team thought that I was dying, and they were worried that they were going to have to cast Ensign Raina Temple again. So I don't have a fatal condition. I have alopecia, is the story. But from that, and from really experiencing what advocacy can do from a certain position and wanting to make a difference, I really got passionate about making a difference and realized that my number one passion is really enabling kids from lower income communities to have the best life they possibly can, because they're resilient and grateful and incredible kids, and I work with them a lot. And I had worked out from my experience that arts and arts education is the most effective way to improve their lives. And here in America, 97% of schools don't offer arts education. So I took it upon myself to offer it. So I have this big new organization called Arts Bridging the Gap, and we are working to be in 200 cities in 10 years, providing arts education to 20 different programs in every city, which, if you do the math, is a heck of a lot of arts programs. So that's my new company. We're just forming right now. We've been going for a year, and it's really exciting and hard work. It's endless 24/7, and I love it, and it's challenging, and it's so exciting to think of what it's going to do for kids. So yeah, that's that.
And that can be found on the web at
artsbridgingthegap.org.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump straight into the audience questions here. We're gonna go a little bit over, but I am going to try and haul.
Okay, great.
Which will involve me walking forward.
Oh my goodness, good. While you're doing that, where'd he go?
I got lost. I don't know where to go in my own house. If you have to like text somebody.
I do. Isn't this terrible? I'm not texting. I'm gonna go onto the little sign there because someone's like, I thought you'd be done at 8. Oops.
This is technology. Okay, so.
Isn't he handsome? Look how handsome he looks up close.
I'm reading. Okay.
You can still. What? That makes you unhandsome if you're reading?
No, it makes me more handsome. You see
exactly.
these books over there, but I'm trying to value your time, which is apparently so precious that you must text.
So sorry. I need to let them know.
No, it's all right. It's what we do for the community. The thing about Geek Outs are very, very informal, as you can tell from.
I like it.
From the. I should have done this whole thing from this angle. Hi everybody, I'm a floating head. So John was asking. He'd love to hear any tips for those with an interest in voice acting. That may be a more selfish question, but. It's a perfectly valid one, and I actually had that on my questions list and skipped it.
Do you know what's really, really cool about that? John, is it?
John Rono, yeah.
That's me. John. Oh, that's John. Hi, John. Yep. I can see you. So, John, I actually made a video recently because it's a question I get asked all the time. So if you go to my YouTube channel, George Van Cuylenburg, there's a video recently for tips how to get into voiceover acting. Because it's just one of those things where I was like, I can't take the time to write to everyone that asks this, but I want people to know. I think just as far as today, some great tips is to practice a lot, to really listen to as many voiceover roles as you can and practice them and find out what your strengths are, what your voices are. I'm truly never really going to get booked as the maniac psycho killer. I'm more likely to get the fly or the fairy, whereas other people might really resonate with a psychomaniac killer. Know your strengths. In the same way, also practice different accents, do all that sort of stuff. The most important thing to know is agents won't even look at you these days unless you have a reel. You need a reel. It's not that hard to do it. It can cost a lot of money if you go to a recording house, or if you have a friend that's or if you're kind of clever with audio, you can do it yourself, but you need to be able to prove what your voice sounds like. An agent will not have you in the room without it. Okay. So that's a few tips. But definitely watch the video. I think it's been helpful for a lot of people. So to look it up, George Van Cuylenburg on YouTube, and then getting into voiceover acting.
Okay, so some questions I've submitted from some people offline had come to me about, for as far as Star Wars goes, what story arcs do you wish to see or would hope happen in the upcoming films?
Oh, like with the new movies? Oh gosh, I haven't even thought about that. I'm so nervous about it. I'm just excited to see Harrison Ford more than anything. What I'd really like to see, honestly, just thinking on the fly here, is seeing some relevance it's to what's going on these days right now in like Earthland culture. Things that are happening here that we are struggling with, that there's so much conflict and so much, I mean, you just got to look at Gaza, not to bring up political things right now, but it's like where two people believe within their heart that they're right and there's no answer that's obvious as far as how to solve things. It would be super cool if they could intertwine that within the storyline, some of the issues that we deal with today about, like, you know, imminent destruction with the press of buttons, all that kind of stuff. How does Star Wars deal with that? How would Harrison Ford, if it should be a bumper sticker, just ask yourself, what would Han Solo do?
He'd shoot first. Not shoot first. Yep.
He would shoot first.
Pound it out. Bam.
I heard that.
And with regard to Final Fantasy, do you have a favorite game from a nostalgia storyline perspective as well as a gameplay perspective? Because I know you're sort of versed in it, but I don't necessarily know if you're a gamer.
Do you mean other than Final Fantasy 13?
Possibly. But
I'm so sorry. I really haven't played the other ones. So, I don't know.
they're there.
I know they are. I know, and I've watched other people play them. Here's where the truth comes in. It's not a thing against video games. I don't watch movies much. I don't read books unless they're nonfiction. I don't tend to have conversations unless they're leading somewhere. I am a very boring person with a mission, driven by a goal to change the world. So I tend to not do things that might accidentally. I also, did I mention, have an addictive personality? And I think that playing a video game. I also don't drink, smoke drugs. Smoke. See, that's how much I do it.
Smoke drugs
I
or
don't
smoke.
drink, do drugs, or smoke ever. I never have, because I know that those are things that sideline me from my goals. So in the same way, I just really haven't sat down to play video games because I know I'd get addicted.
They're amazing. I have the same issue. They're amazing. And like once I start on, for example, a Steam sale, like I'll buy a couple things. I've still got games where I know, like if I start on this, I'll see you next summer.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's
exactly.
happened.
I would.
And I'm like a Lolo gamer. I'm just really interested in the culture of it, and I deal with so many people involved in video games. I've worked in video games. I think I met you around the time I was working in video games.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating. People are like, well, what are your favorite games? And I'll have to explain. I can't really start.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't afford my apartment if I did.
And I really mean it. Like, to explain, before cool video games came out, I was addicted to Lemmings. Completely obsessed.
This is not cool.
No, I know, but like, as in back then, before all of these
That's
guys.
the game you cannot not.
This is a classic.
Oh, it's
Thank
so
you.
good.
That's a
And I would
classic.
play it for hours, and I kid you not, I used to dream Tetris. Like, I got so addicted. Played so much that I used to be like, I could see myself planning moves of Tetris when I was like 8th grade. So I really need to stay away from video games is the point.
You know, I wonder how many interior designers and logistics experts out there were inspired or found their love of their craft by way of Tetris.
It's like, I want to do this forever.
Ding, 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 ding.
How
ding,
can I fit
ding,
it
ding,
in?
ding, ding, ding.
Sorry.
So, will we have any more questions from the live audience? Because if not, we've taken 10 extra minutes of an extraordinarily busy philanthropist's time. So,
So
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
I have one.
please.
Yes.
I got a little list here, but I'll keep it short. There's definitely a lot of parallels between you and Vinyl, definitely.
Yes.
What ways would you say that maybe you're different from her?
I think the difference came when I was recording it. I was coming out of a time where it was very similar. The similarity then was that I'd been keeping a secret about my hair loss and eating disorders from my past for a long time because I thought I'd be judged and I was worried how it would affect my life. So I'd always had that super, super peppy thing that she had going on that so many of the gamers found annoying, which was on purpose because she was meant to be covering up. So I think when the game was being recorded, I was more like her. The big difference is, since the game, and I guess, let's be honest, it works perfectly. Spoiler alert, Final Fantasy 13-3, she's a very different personality because she's done exactly what I've done, which is really embrace who she really is and be okay with it and be honest about it and trying to do something to change it. So now, I think if you compare me to the first Final Fantasy 13, I'm very grounded in my truth. And I certainly wouldn't be covering up with this, like, everything's fine, we just got to find something to believe in. You know, I'd be going, yeah, you do have to find something to believe in, but you also have to be honest about exactly who you are. So I think Vanille and I took exactly the same character arc, which was so funny to me when we came into 13-3. I was like, whoa, Vanille, way to go. Way to own your truth. So, yeah, only the major difference really being that if you compare me now to the first one, I'm a lot more honest.
Cool. Is it alright if I get one more in there? One
Go
more
for it.
question?
Yeah.
Okay. In Final Fantasy 13, the characters have a focus, like, and they get the tattoo branding.
Yes.
If in your personal life, if you had a focus, Like, if there's something you had to do, otherwise you would turn to Crystal, what would it be?
Very simply, my focus in life is to help every child around the world be the best version of themselves that they ever could be, or believe in their magic, whichever one you want to hear. I always say to help every child around the world believe in their magic, but on a practical level, it's give them the resources and the self-belief to do everything that they're capable of in their life.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing you do.
Thank you. I love it. It's the best job in the world.
I'll make sure that. I keep getting up to check the chat and then walk away. I don't have the second monitor tonight.
Look at that face.
Okay, John, I'm going, this mystery question that you keep alluding to, I'm going to let you go ahead and ask it.
All right, so I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask this one question about the game that I play, specifically Star Wars The Old Republic.
Yes.
Is there any way that you can say if you've been enlisted for more lines for Reyna or for any other character that you played, because you have done some from the Hut Cartel expansion?
So I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say or not say.
See that one coming.
However,
Ooh.
I can tell you that it has been a while. And I don't get told like more than 3 days before.
Gotcha.
So I don't think there's much imminent there. I really would like every time a 323 number calls me, I'm always like, is that Ilko? Hoping that it's him going, they need you again next week, but it has been quite a while.
Fair enough.
Sorry that I can't be more helpful.
No, you've been more help than you know.
Good. Uh-oh.
It says slightly honest. You've been more help than you know. Whoa.
Oh, yes. I report on the game I love.
I find
your
your
lack
lack
of
of
information
disturbing.
But if you want to do me a favor and write that I need to go in, that's fine too.
I will make sure to put a note into the community manager tonight.
Yeah, if you could, because I would
Oh,
love
absolutely.
to see them all again. Maybe they got scared about my boldness and thought I was just joking, and maybe I'm no longer with them.
The community manager himself doesn't have much in the way of hair, so...
Brother.
Baby, let your hair hang down.
Yeah, baby, let that hair hang down. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's my movie. If anyone is interested, the movie is called Baby, Let Your Hair Hang Down, and that is the story of me with my hair. So
I will be picking it up.
Thank you.
I wanted to work that into our wrap up. Okay, thanks again for everybody who wrote in with questions. Thanks
guys.
to everybody who joined us and watched live, and most especially thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much
again
for having me.
We really do appreciate it. It's been a blast. We've learned a whole lot here. Is there anything else you want to mention? So, Arts Bridging the Gap is at?
Arts Bridging the Gap is important, just for you guys to know that it's happening, and, if you feel inclined to support in any way, that's awesome. Baby, Let Your Hair Hang Down is my movie. You can check out what I'm doing. I write for the Hollywood Journal, as I mentioned, if you ever want to read a little bit more about my life with random celebrities and all that sort of fun stuff and my Hollywood life, it's in there. I also do a series for them called Soul Angel on celebrities that are making a significant difference. My main takeaway, I guess, from this is if I could leave you with anything, it is to pursue exactly what you believe in. And I'm always there online in many different forms or fashion, whether it's my lessons of the week, whether it's my random videos, whether it's my Facebook. My Facebook, the personal one is full, but you can go to the fan page, and I do write back to everyone. My big commitment with becoming someone that is somewhat in the public was to respond to people and create, real relations with people, because everybody is awesome and amazing and deserves to be heard. So I do write back when I can. I do respond to things that are respectable. And I really, guys, thank you so much for anyone that's out there watching and has been a fan and has been a supporter, because none of what I do would work if you weren't out there.
All right. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you all for stopping in this evening and putting up with the sheer level of kind of up and down excitement that I've had the entire time.
I love it.
I'm sure everybody can tell I'm a little bouncy, and I'm bouncy for a reason, because I'm excited to have you all here.
Yay!
And we're excited to have you all on Pursuery.com. That'll do it. I'm going to walk on over and turn off the live broadcast. Maybe wait, freeze frame. Actually, I think I have to turn it off. All right. So again, thank you for joining us on Berseria.com. My name's Evan. Good night. Good luck. We'll see you
It was
soon.
a pleasure to meet you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.